So when we see you, we have we're working together, you know. I think they're going to be but it makes a difference. Supposed to stand. So I've got the edge of that. So that's me. So yeah, we can. I can One minute. There is a check with 7, 8, 9. And that was not happening. I didn't put it That's good.
Remember, you got the camera on.
Yep, I do.
So,
Ready?
okay. There it is, Jerry. Special announcement, new partnership. Where is the?
I'm going to do welcome remarks, then I'm going to give the mic to you for the new partnership announcement.
Okay, let's see where.
Then let me do flip it.
Okay, I got to see where that video is.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our ASA Divisional meeting today, November 5th. My name is Jerry Jennings. I'm superintendent in Globe Unified School District in Globe, Arizona, and I am president of ASA, ASA organization this year. Thank you on behalf of all of ASA. Thank you for taking time to come join with us. We encourage you to meet somebody new today. If you haven't met somebody new, make sure you meet somebody new before you leave today. It's good to know people at all levels. Let's see who we've got here. How many elementary principals do we have here? Let's hear it for the elementary principals. Thank you. This next group of people, they would be people that would deserve the Medal of Honor. How many middle school principals? How many we have middle school principals. Let's hear it for them. And what I consider to be the hardest job in education, high school principals. How many high school principals? Let's hear it for our high school principals. They are the absolute Iron Men of education, and women, Iron Men and women of education. And superintendents, how many superintendents do we have? Let's hear it for the superintendents. And we also have higher ed. How many professors and folks from the Division of Higher Ed, how many of you folks do we have here? Let's hear it for you. There are some here. Let's hear it. And the glue that holds everything together. Let's not forget our ed services people, the people in central offices. Let's hear it. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Thank you, ed services. Thank you for the support and encouragement. Again, thank you for being here. This is almost halfway through my year as being ASA president. I tried to emphasize a theme. Tell me what that theme was going to be for this year. Jennifer, what is that theme? Thank you. Thank you very much. Head, heart, and hands. Thinking, caring, doing. And that's what we want to be as administrators. And I told you before, stole it without any shame from 4-H. And your health is important too. But those 3 H's, head, heart, and hands, those are the kind of people that I hope we will be. So thank you for coming. Before we go any further, something we haven't always done at our meeting, but we do this when we gather our students together. We do this when we have any kind of event. Let's stand and say the pledge together. Could we? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It is an important time to be an American. You know, there's a big deal going on tomorrow, and all of us need to participate, be part of that. But if you ever stop and think about it, I don't know what your patriotism quotient is, but if you stop and think about it, the blessings we have, because we're born in the country we were born in, because we have all the kind of dedicated heroes that have paved the way for us. When we think about our country, I believe it's still the greatest country on the face of the earth. So we're grateful to be here, grateful that we have this opportunity to be together. I have a tremendous privilege this morning to introduce you to our breakfast sponsor. And I believe he's going to share a little bit with us this morning, Mark. And our breakfast sponsor comes from the Flippin Group. If any of you know about the Flippin Group, they are very much a group that is involved in setting up processes to build high-performing teams, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be the adults in the organization, whether it be in business and industry or in education. And I'm very privileged to introduce a person that's become a close friend of mine and has represented Flippin for several years. And he's going to come and just share for a few minutes about who he is and what he is proposing to partner with ASA. So you'd welcome our breakfast sponsor, Chris Layton from the Flippin Group. Come on up, Chris.
Stand in front of the mic there.
Right here. Right here.
Thanks, Jerry. Hey, and just real fast, Jerry, before you walk away, thank you so much for who you are, for your leadership. I've learned so much from you and just from our friendship. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate your heart and for who you are for your team. So thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be able to just real quickly just share with you an opportunity that we have coming up. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Flippin Group or maybe Capturing Kids' Hearts. is probably a more familiar thing. That's a training that we do. But I wanted to come and talk to you today about leadership. Is it possible to go to the next slide?
Okay, next.
Sorry.
Yep.
If there is one, I don't know.
Okay, let's see. Oops, I'll get it.
While he's doing that, so let me just Flip Flippin is our founder of the Flippin Group, and he says that no organization can rise above the constraints of its leadership. So let me say that one more time, and just really think about that. No organization can rise above the constraints of its leadership. So if you think about that, you as principals, as superintendents, as leaders in districts, your personal behavioral constraints are holding your teams back from becoming the very best that they can be. So what is a personal constraint? Well, that's any behavior that negatively impacts relationships, attitudes, and performance. So let me say that again. Personal constraints are any behaviors that negatively impact attitudes, relationships, and performance. So if you think about your district, as you think about you, your teachers, your leaders, your administrators, are their behaviors aligned to your desired outcomes? So that's something to kind of think about. And so what I'd like to offer today is an opportunity to attend our leadership training at a discounted rate. We've partnered with ASA to bring it to you guys. And what Leadership Blueprint is all about leadership. It's about building your leadership capacity, growing that, becoming your very best leader through communication, through running meetings, through all types of different things. But it's also, the really fun part about it is that we have a 360-degree profile. Now this profile is used by the military. They use our profile. It's used by Fortune 500 to 100 companies. It's used by the Arizona Diamondbacks for talent acquisition. It's used all over the world. And so we have the data that we know what makes a really good superintendent. We know what makes a really good principal. We know what makes a really good teacher. And so from this information, we can get your data and help you through this training. You'll get your own behavioral constraints. So you'll know by the end of this training, what are the top 2 constraints that you have that are holding you back. And not only that, what's really great about it is that we help you build a traction plan for what are you going to do tomorrow to change that. What are you going to do to change your behaviors, to align your behaviors to your desired outcomes? And then as you think about that, the research has shown is that when you break a behavioral constraint, your performance doesn't gradually go up, it actually jumps up. And so this is the opportunity to find out what your constraints are and help you overcome those constraints to become a better husband, a better father, a better mother, a better wife, a better leader, and just a better all-around person. So I just appreciate you guys. I love this. My kids go to Deer Valley School District. It's a great school district, and I'm invested in Arizona. I'm invested in your leadership, and you guys as leaders. And so that's why I so intensely want to bring this to you guys, because I know the power and the ability that it has to help us to become our best selves. So I just want to leave you with a launch just real fast. Just a little quick thought or quote. But it's from Bear Bryant. I don't know if you guys know who Bear Bryant is. I actually had to look him up. I like to play sports. I just don't know much about sports. But for those of you that don't know, he is a very successful football coach. And so he said something that I absolutely love. He said, it's not the will to win, but the will to prepare to win that makes the difference. And so I just challenge you to continue to prepare, to continue to grow your leadership, and you'll have those and get those desired outcomes that you're looking for. Thank you so much again. This right here, if you text leadership to 77453, you can get more information about the training, and we'll be sending out some more information about it later. Thank you.
Okay, I want to take a moment now to announce a new ASA partner that we have. And we're going to do it with a little video. Let's see if we can play this video.
So good morning. My name is Paul Luna. I'm the president and CEO of Helios Education Foundation. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today to say hello and to express our thanks and appreciation to be able to.
We got it.
So good morning. My name is Paul Luna. I'm the president of the Education Foundation. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today to say hello and to touch. On behalf of Helios, our board and our staff, we appreciate the opportunity to partner with all of you and the leadership you provide to education in Arizona. At Helios, we believe that every student, regardless of who they are, their background, where they're born, the color of their skin, every student deserves access to a quality education. And we're driven by a mission that every student will be successful in post-secondary education. The reality is we also know that the only way we will be successful is if we do things through partnerships. So that's why we're very excited about the opportunity to partner with you, the Arizona School Administrators, under the leadership of Mark Jornstad, to really work together to ensure that every student in Arizona has access to a quality education. We're here to say thank you for the opportunity to partner with you, but I also want to make sure that you know, on behalf of our entire organization, how much we appreciate each and every one of you for the leadership that you provide to all of our students, to our education system every single day. We do believe that every student in Arizona will be successful, and we know that will be happen because we have leadership that's that opportunity. We thank you for the partnership, much more that you'll hear about today, and the opportunity to engage with you further to have a successful Arizona education system.
Okay. Okay. Jerry, I'll bring you back to introduce Joe O'Reilly. That Helios partnership, by the way, means substantial financial support for the Arizona School Administrators. So.
That is, we are in a relationship business. And we have an executive director and an executive board and a group of people that are all about relationships. And I will tell you, those kind of partnerships don't happen without building relationships. So kudos especially to our executive director. Let's hear it for Dr. Mark Jornstad. We have a healthy organization. We can always be better. We need to grow, just like Chris was talking about. We need to get some of those constraints out of our way. But this is an excellent organization, growing, getting better time because of people. It's because of the executive director and the executive board. And I've done this before, but I'd like to do it again. I would just like, let's hear it for our executive board. Would all the executives please stand? Executive board, would you please stand? This is an outstanding group. It's an outstanding group of leaders. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So at this point in time, we are going to have a data presentation, and we're pleased to have Joe Riley, who's going to come and share more data than you probably ever want to know. Is that right, Joe? But it's going to be a good time. Are you open to questions during, or you want them to wait to the end?
During's fine.
During's fine, okay.
And there's some people here from Arizona Department of Ed. If I can't answer it, they may be able to answer some of the
Well,
questions.
come on up. And so if you have questions while Joe's rolling with his data, feel free to raise your hand. And like he said, he's got other experts here so they can share too. Take it away, Joe.
Do you want to do any of the Mentimeter questions?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you do a couple of them?
Okay. Okay, if you have your cell phone, a few Mentimeter questions as well, go to www.menti.com. If you're watching on the live stream, do the same thing. You see it up there, .com 742941. And we'll see if we can actually pull this up and give you a couple of questions to start off. These all concern A through F. Let's see if we can find it. Maybe.
use PowerPoint. We'll minimize PowerPoint first.
Yep. Okay. There's our first question. My school or schools A through F grades were? A few of you were pleasantly surprised. Most of you seem to know what you were getting. Anybody need any more time on this? Okay, now I forgot how to go to the next question. Lowering the N count, remember that N count. Lowering the N count to 10. District or school grade, diminished my district or school grade, had no impact. Lowering that N count to 10, what did it do for you? Interesting.
That's interesting.
Didn't seem to help too many. I know what you would responded. No, I locked out more than one answer. Okay, last chance. Moving the science results from proficiency to bonus points helped my school's letter grade. Didn't help or hurt my school's letter grade, or they did something different with science. Just thought some people maybe didn't even know that. No offense.
It's getting more votes than hurt my school's letter grade.
That was one of those that had little impact for a lot of people. Bonus points for having 9.4+% of your students in special ed. My school received the special ed enrollment bonus points. The special ed bonus points help my letter grade. Giving bonus points for special ed enrollment is important. Okay, 80 respondents. You see the results? Not as many. I'm a little surprised that 3.9 on giving bonus points for special ed enrollment is important. Okay. Compared to 2017, or should we wait till you've done your data before we
do
do
this last one?
Okay. Compared to 2017, the 2018 CCRI ratings improved my high school's grade, diminished my high school's grade, had little impact. And then for those of you elementary people, NA, not applicable. Stop here. Okay. Dr. Joel O'Reilly.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm, as you know, Joe. We have a new Decision Center for Educational Excellence,
If you want to be on camera, you got to stand in front of the camera.
which is with the light in my eyes. Is that
Yeah, or you can stand a little to the right.
okay? Am I on camera?
You're on camera.
From the ASU's Decision Center for Educational Excellence. It's a new center. I just started the end of last March. And the idea behind this, well, one thing, it's powered by Helios. So Helios is funding it. And as you have a partnership with Helios, this is another Helios product that will be working with you. And hopefully we'll be partnering to make a difference with Arizona's education. ASU is focused on the education system from pre-K through employment through the Decision Center. And the reason we're doing that is because it's part of ASU's charter. And you can't really see here in the light the last three sentences, but it's over there. ASU is not just a research institution. ASU is saying, and Dr. Crow is saying, what we need to do is help our schools and our communities thrive. And the way they do that fundamentally is focus on education. So one way we're working to do that is through education. And the charge of the Decision Center is to look at education from pre-K through employment, to collect all the information we can on the education system, both education data, but also census data, Department of Economic Security data, all the information we can find on the education system. Bring to bear all the power of ASU. And when I first met with him, he said, you know, you don't have to work for you. You have all of ASU. Of course, I went to ASU and I found out that he told no one else that. And they didn't believe that he really would have said that. And they don't work for me. But we're partnering with people at ASU to analyze data, to visualize data. And then the third is you bring in the education stakeholders, the educators, the parents, the business people, the community members, to talk about educational issues and look at the analysis, look at the visualization and say, where are we? Where do we need to be? And then how do we get there? So we're starting out with a partnership with you to improve the education system. And that's the focus of the Decision Center. We're nonpartisan. We're a source of trusted information, but making the changes will happen in your classrooms, in your schools, and in your communities, discussing what's happening in your communities. So today, Mark asked, could you look at some of the accountability data and just kind of summarize it in a way that people, not overwhelming, but in a way that people can understand somewhat. So we looked at K-8, and I broke it out by all schools, and then I broke out rural schools. So those who are probably, for the most part, watching online can see how rural schools compare. And just a personal note, as a child in elementary school, I had to go to speech therapy and for my R's and L's. And the one word that people kept on tripping me up on, because you had to get up to say all the words right, was rural. So this is a real challenge for me when I have to break it out this way. So the way I broke it out was all the counties except Pima, Maricopa, and Pinal were rural. And then even within those, I looked to see, are some schools really rural and not kind of urban or suburban? So Babakibri, it sells and is part of Pima County, but in no way is that like Tucson. It is a rural community. So that was treated as rural. Okay. So how did the grades go? Over here are the 2017 points. Along here are the 2018 points. First thing you notice here, look at the colors, the blues and the A's. There are a lot of blues. A lot of schools got A's. The reds are B's, the greens are C's, oranges are D's, and the yellowish is or F's. So you can see where the cut point was for A's and B's. Okay. Now, if we look at the cut point for 2017, this top right quadrant are schools that were A's both years. The bottom right quadrant are schools that were not A's in 2017, but are A's in 2018. So a lot of schools went up in terms of their letter grades. Now, of course, there were some schools that were A's in 2017, but went back to B's, C's, and one unfortunate school went to D. So they went from about 90 points in 2017 to probably about 55 points in 2018. So something unusual happened there. That would be an outlier school that you'd want to look at a little more closely. So one thing you could do is compare 2017 to 2018. Visually, you kind of get a feel for how many schools were in the different letter grade categories. But there's a third thing you can do with this is if you know your 2017 percentage of points, you can look at how you compared in 2018 to comparable schools. So say you're right at the borderline of getting a C. You're at 60 points in 2017. You can follow that line across, and everyone on that line had 60 points in 2017. Now, a couple of the schools got enough points to get an A. They had 60 points in 2017. They now have about 85 points in 2018. They did something to improve. What did they do? What could we learn from them, and what could you learn from a comparable school in terms of percent of points in the prior year? Some of the schools went up 20 points. Some of the schools went down 20 points from one year to the next. Now, was their 2017 letter grade inaccurate, or did they do something that caused them to either go up a lot, or perhaps they implemented something that caused them to go down because they weren't focusing on the right things? So that's another way you could use this, and Mark's going to share the presentation with you so you can kind of see how you did in 2017 versus how you did in 2018.
So they can click on these dots and it'll identify the school?
No, but I can give you the Excel spreadsheet,
Okay.
and they can look up their own school and identify. If you're a rural school and you're watching or in the audience, this is kind of like if you try and look at the stars here, you're not going to see any stars. You go down to Bowie and you look up, lots of stars. So the Phoenix and Tucson kind of hide a lot for the rural schools because there's a lot of noise. But if we take out those urban schools, how did our rural schools do? The pattern is very similar. Their points are a little bit lower, but some of the highest performing schools are in rural areas, those top right, but some of our lowest performing schools are also in rural areas. And then again, if you looked at up on the 60, you see some schools that went up to over 80 points between 17 and 18, and some schools that went backwards. So this will allow you to compare your school to other rural schools. And again, this is K-8. Here are the K-8 points. Now the top row is percentage of points, and the other rows are points, actual point numbers. So you can't really compare the two of them. One's a percent, one's an actual number. But you can see in my quick calculation from the data file from the state board, what the average was in 2017, what the average was in 2018. So bonus points went up because they added bonus points. Science became 3 bonus points in addition to the 2 special ed bonus points in 2018 that weren't there in 2017. You can see the other ones that stayed the same in the number of points. And you can see how all schools did, and you can see the average just for rural schools. So you could compare your points to schools overall. So one question that I was getting from people was, what was the impact of the N size? And a lot of you said it hurt your letter grades. And if you were a small school, it could have really hurt your letter grades. The ones I heard from the most are charters and small schools that made a huge difference. And where it made a difference for a lot of people is in the ELs. So the English language learners, if you had more than 10, but less than 20, you didn't get included in terms of the EL points. So your percentage was out of 90 points. Now you have 11 ELs. Your percentage is out of 100 points. How would that possibly impact you? What I did was look at the number of points people got for the EL category. In 2017, only 2% of the schools got 5 or fewer points. In 2018, 20% of the schools got 5 or fewer points. So going down to 10 led to more schools being looked at. And when you have a lower number of students, how many points you get really depends on who those 10 students are, much more than if it's 20 or more students. And so it brings in more variability. It brings in a smaller number of students, so students count more towards the total percentage. And we can kind of see that in some of the EL points. So when you say it hurt you, it could have hurt you in your EL points, because if you're one of the schools that are getting 2 points for ELs, so they're adding 2 points to your numerator, but they're adding 10 points to your denominator because EL now counts for you. And that will lower your percentage of total points. And that hurt some people. Not everybody, some people benefited. When I thought about this, but if you remember the argument, when this policy was made, people said, it's not fair that I'm not getting a letter grade. My school deserves a letter grade, and you should count it. And so that's what the state board decided. Yeah, it should be counted, and everyone should get a letter grade. And so this is a consequence of that. So you know that country music song about thank God for unanswered prayers? Well, this was an answered prayer. And now we have to deal with what the consequence of that was. So it had some consequences for schools, but everybody got their information. It was transparent as to what was happening to ELs in those schools. And it'll be interesting to look at the pattern over time. Do those schools bounce around a lot because of the small n? Or are they kind of stable the way schools have 20, 30, 50 ELs are stable? So that was K-8. 9, 12, we did the same thing. We looked at schools that were rural or non-rural, and we looked at overall schools, and then separated out rural schools. So here we have the same pattern, but this is for high schools. Okay, the cut points are a little bit different, but here's the A's. And you can see again, the top right quadrant are high schools that were A's both years. The top left are a couple schools that went down from an A, but not many schools. The light yellow, like this one up here, is unrated. So there's an appeal or something going on. So when I got the data, it's not in the data file as to what their outcome was. They missed an A by, it looks like about 1 point. And so I wouldn't blame them for appealing if they have a basis for saying, hey, I really should have gotten another point or two here or there. Again, you can see the B's, the C's, the D's, and the F's. So distribution of, and there are many schools that got A's that were not A's before. You can see B's who were not B's before. So you can see how many went up, and you can see where your performance is compared to comparable schools. So you can find your performance on here. Here are rural schools, similar pattern. Some of the highest performing and some of the lower performing schools are in rural areas. And here are the points, the percentage of points at the top and the distribution of points at the bottom. And again, the bonus points went up because bonus points changed. They added science to bonus points. They took science out of proficiency. You would have been hurt by that if your science performance was higher than your reading and ELA and math performance. And if it was probably bringing up your proficiency level, and taking it out would lower your proficiency level when you just look at English language arts and math. But you'd somewhat make it up on your bonus points if you had high science outcomes. Okay. So the big question I had and other people had was, okay, we went to CCRI. The big change the feds required was we divided by all seniors and not just graduates. Now, bringing in all seniors, the argument is those kids are not as focused on college and career ready indicator measures like taking the ACT, filling out a FAFSA, taking AP, as students who are graduating on time. And so what would happen is you increase the denominator, more kids are in there, all seniors instead of graduates, but your numerator doesn't increase as much because those kids are not taking some of the indicators. And maybe I think the policy behind this is we should push schools to have kids taking those CT classes and doing some of the AP and things like that, even if they're not going to graduate on time. Now, the challenge is there, but I think that's partly behind the policy. So I looked at what's the distribution of scores, and it was virtually unchanged. It went down a little bit from, I think this is 16.4, that line is the median. This is 16.0, and this is the distribution. This is the top quarter, the next quarter, the third quartile, and the fourth quartile. So you can see the distribution is very similar in both times. There are a couple schools that are outliers that are like way, way low. So they must have either like partly filled it out and submitted it before they completed it, or I don't know, or most people didn't do anything in those schools. I'm not sure. But excluding those outliers, you can see that even though we increased the denominator by having all those students who didn't graduate, in Mesa's case, it might be 20% of the kids, 25% of the kids. In the state, 20% of the kids do not graduate on time. Some of those are dropouts, but some of them are still in schools, and they're now in the denominator. Yet the average didn't really. So what that tells me is you did a good job of improving, focusing on the measures on CCRI. You're not seeing that here because the denominator increased, but I think if we just looked at graduates, you'd probably see the success of your efforts because those CCRI points by student probably increased. Now, we don't have the data that how you have it by student and by the different categories, but that would be my hypothesis. Do you think that's accurate? So we'll have questions and talk once we get through here. The other thing that people had said to me was, this is self-report. People are going to lie like thieves. People are just going to make up numbers and send it in, and everyone's going to get all the points. And I thought, well, how can I look at that? And so what I did was I looked at the overall total and broke people down by their letter grades, and then said, how many CCRI points did each letter grade group get? And so if people made up the numbers, we should see high numbers no matter for CCRI, no matter what your letter grade is, because you may not have done well in the other measures, but this is the one measure you can control if that was really going on. Well, that really wasn't going on for the most part, because D schools had a lot less CCRI points and reported a lot fewer CCRI points than A schools, and it's almost in order of grades. Now, CCRI did contribute to whether or not you got a certain letter grade, but the best I could do to kind of look, are people really reporting accurately, or are there, maybe this pattern isn't the way it should be given the overall performance of the schools. Now, that's not true everywhere. Case 47 is a D school that had higher CCRI points than almost anyone, than the average for any group. Now, I can't believe a D school overall would have everyone taking the AP, CTE, ACT, filling out the FAFSA to get all those points. Okay. I would question that particular school. I might even question some of those tails that are really, really high. But ADE does monitor, and maybe they've looked at some of these schools. But what I took from this is the CCR kind of consistent. So what you're doing appears to be what you should be, and what you're doing seems to be having an impact, even though we're not seeing it in the average for CCRI. Okay. So on average, the points went up a little bit. Many schools showed improvement. Okay, if you look at the cut points, all those blues that are in the lower right quadrant, all of those from B's, even a D. Lowering the end count allowed more schools to be included. You can see only 200 some schools were excluded rather than 400 some schools. However, that had a negative impact on some schools in terms of your points. And if you're a small school, impact on more than just EL, but a lot of your measures. And the CCR points were unchanged, but I think it's masking actual improvement you guys are making. So those are the major takeaways I had, and it kind of gives you an overview, and you could see how schools in general did, K-8, 9, 12, and you could see kind of what the averages are, and perhaps look at your school versus comparable schools based on the rating the year before. Mark, do you have any call for questions, or do you want to talk about these questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Have you done any research as to how the schools with high free and reduced lunch performed, and how many of those schools are D's and F's compared to high socioeconomic status? I have.
Oh, you have? Okay, I was going to say I haven't. I think there are some people in the back who probably have, but
Yeah.
what did you find?
Example, Mesa, Paradise
If
Valley,
you can-
and Chandler.
Stand up so everyone can hear you.
Examples, Mesa, Paradise Valley, and Chandler all have a D school, and they're in low socioeconomic areas. They have the same curriculum, the same administration, but these children have different resources. So have you given any thought to look into how that impacts the scores and what should be done at the state level to address that disadvantage?
Mm-hmm. So I have not looked at that at this point. I haven't added in the free and reduced lunch list. Wendy, has ADE looked at that at all?
We have. That has been part of the board presentations. Back when they actually were building the original ADE app, there's always been, they never eliminated the correlation to free and reduced lunch. So we're not surprised that it's still there. Whenever we model, that is one of the variables we always model.
And when they set it up, at least Kate, they focused on growth because growth was fairer to lower income schools. But as Wendy said, you're never going to eliminate the impact of socioeconomic status completely. And especially if the board wants to do and what the state wants to do is increase students' proficiency. So they're not going to take that out of the equation. So that's a slight answer to your question. There is a relationship. When we planned the accountability system, when we did some analysis, it was there all along, but they tried to minimize it as much as possible. But they also want to make sure students get to certain outcomes, which is proficiency on ASA merit or whatever the next test is going to be, kids graduate on time, and those factors, all of which have a correlation with socioeconomic.
Did you look at any districts with schools with crossover grades?
Okay, good question. I forgot to mention there were hybrid schools. There were only 11 district schools in that list, and so I didn't look at it. But I know Gila County is a hotbed hybrids. It looks like Miami has some. I think Globe Bay even has some. There are some others. I could do the same analysis for them, and if there's interest, I would do that. Most of them were charter schools, and I was doing this on the weekend. Mark and I were going back and forth, so I didn't include the hybrids just because it seemed like it would take your time, and most of you are not hybrids. But I can do that for you.
You said there's 11?
I think there were 11 district schools that were hybrids in the list that I had. Most of them seem to be charters. There may be some district schools in there that are hybrids whose name didn't lead me to believe they were district schools. I just looked at the list. So, okay, other questions?
Okay.
We have these to ask.
Are these on the,
So anyone think there are things that need to be fixed on the system? Or should we keep it the same from last year to this year?
That's a free and reduced impact.
Add the free and reduced impact? Not quite sure how we do that, but okay.
Graduation
Take a
rate,
percentage,
free and
it's easy.
reduced.
Pardon?
Graduation rate, and they're free and reduced.
But just
Together.
graduation rate in general, because you've got 20 points, 10 points are based on keeping the same or growing. If you just have a 1% drop in graduation rate, you lost 10 points. If you're a bubble school and any one of those things, you just drop down.
Yeah, the all or
Their
nothing.
grade, scored just on one factor. And I think many of the schools that you saw decreases in their letter grades at the high school level were probably related to grad points, those 10 points. And then it's impact on any number of schools.
So a small change in graduation rate had a big change in the
Yep.
points, the letter grade.
Sir, you may, it's knowable, the percent of free and reduced is knowable. There should be bonus points for that. The point is, there's teachers working even harder with disadvantaged kids, and these schools are being demoralized because they're not given that benefit. The kids raised in my family, my children, had a much different advantage than kids that are in poor areas. They just do. So measuring growth is good, but it does not get you there.
And that's something for the state board to consider. I worked in Mesa for 30 years. Our free and reduced lunch rate was between 60 and 65%. I worked with those schools directly. I know the impact.
They can't hear you.
So I know the impact from working with those schools for the last 3 years, but I just also know the state policy and why they made the policy decisions they did. But that's something, there are people in this room that are on the state board and they're at ADE, and so your suggestions heard by those. The other is there any need to collect the CCR data so you can see more about the CCRI points? And that's something you've talked about, and I don't know whether there's any interest in doing that. Turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. O'Reilly. And as you know, he is at the decision center, so some of these questions you have, they could be further explored. We will send out, make available to you PowerPoint. Yep.
I'll send the PowerPoint and the Excel spreadsheet. I'll put it out of SPSS and put it in Excel, so you can look up the values I have for 17 and 18 for your school and compare that to the scatter plot. And my phone number is in the and my email is in the presentation. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if I can be any of assistance. And as we go forward and build the center, we hope to partner with you and involve you in some of the things we're doing.
Okay, well, Wendy Davy is coming up. If you want to, following up on what you were saying, if you want to finish off the Menti poll, in 2 words or less, what school benefits most from the current A through F system? I know a couple of your questions would seem to point to answer that. 2 words or less is important on this one. It's going to build a word cloud in your answers. We've got the number of respondents down on the right here.
We're not a little sore, are we?
Methinks I detect a theme.
What's the basis for that, Mark?
And as you know, on a word cloud, the bigger the font, the more the answers are the same. Okay, let's try one more here. In 2 words or less, what schools benefit least from the current A through F system? 2 words or less. 74, 29, 41. Okay, similar theme there. Okay, one last one. In 5 words or less, describe Arizona's A through F accountability system, and this will just stack the answers. 5 words or less. The shorter, the better. This will be a good introduction for you. Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate your responses to the Mentimeter poll. That was my Sunday afternoon work, so thank you for participating. Now we have the person who crunches the numbers at the Arizona Department of Education, guru at the Peoria Unified School District. So when she was at Peoria, she sat in the same chair many of you are sitting in your current school district. So she's seen this both sides, and that's made her invaluable. And I know many of you during this process called her to having more makes her very helpful to the help. So warm welcome, please, for Wendy Davey. They were pretty good on the moving target and work in progress. I thought they were kind.
So just go ahead
Which
and open
one
Chrome
is
again.
yours?
Oh, let's go ahead and open it up. Because we shut Chrome down. Guys, give me just a second. I'm going to open us back up here.
Did I shut Chrome
No,
down?
that's okay. We got it. Here, you can talk to them for a second while I get it open.
So our division needs to start a little bit later because Wendy's going to take you through some report card that's being developed in response to the dashboard bill, and then some current things they're contemplating next year. And you're going to have a chance to give some input on that.
Thank you, Dr. Jornstad. Can you guys hear me? Thank you, guys, for a lot. I just want to take a minute and introduce you to the people that are with me today. We have had a lot of questions on report cards. What are the school's responsibilities? What are the district responsibilities? What is the state doing? You're our first large public stakeholder meeting today. What a way to get baptized, right? So you will have a link. Yeah, so you have this piece of paper, and as I go through the report card, you can take notes. Dr. Jornstad also sent you something where it'll have a link where you can place those notes later, or you can do it live while we present. In the back, though, I want to take a second and introduce 3 people that are with me today who are feverishly taking notes when you guys were talking about A through F. We eat and breathe A through F. We sleep and dream and nightmares about report cards. So both hats, but good hats. So I have with me today Dr. Alan Simmons. He is our Director of Accountability. Some of you have been talking to him lately since he joined us. Next to him, I have Debbie Yedlin. She has joined us to become the Director of Data Governance for the Arizona Department of Education. She brings a wealth of experience to help a lot with that data governance. You guys, well, you're all superintendents and principals. You understand that philosophy and how important with it. And also I have with us Kelly Hennick, who is our Associate Superintendent over our divisions. So they're here taking notes for me since I have to do the roadshow, and we want to know what you hear. So let me touch base. I know we sent out a survey real quick. Before I go to report cards, let's go ahead and get the KA, A through F. We sent that out. If you remember, State Board of Education is the one that owns A through F. We get to administer it. So they get to set the rules, we make it happen. So I'm not passing the buck, but as coming from the field, if we want to change something, we need to change it through our legislation. And I'm all supporting let's do the best things for kids and let's have the best accountability system. I'm hoping what I'm going to show you today in the report cards will actually be uplifting and encouraging, because we're going to do it in versions, and you might be able to highlight your school better than a letter grade will ever highlight your school. So I'm going to jump to that. The K-8, the purpose of that K-8, the Accountability Advisory Group, pushed that out after many meetings. Because we have menu coming for high school and we have menu coming for elementary, and after spending the last 3 to 4 weeks on the phone, and I guess we track all the phone calls, we track comments, everybody's saying, quit moving target. Moving target. The target is going to move immensely when elementary goes to menu. A lot of conversations went into effect. We also did a lot of modeling. That is why it came out, for the benefit of everybody, and not to having moving a target with just a few slight changes, keeping K-8 the same. As I was sitting back there, it sounds that there's a lot of conversations on 9-12. The data governance has been looking at that. We're looking for data governance. Listen to me go. By the way, I don't speak clearly and I say wrong things, so stay with me and wave at me if I do. The Accountability Technical Advisory Group is now digging deep into 9-12 because of the impact of menu. Our goal is that we can have something to you guys like we did K-8 here soon, and hopefully have something maybe to the state board to sort of vet as well, so that hopefully maybe by the first of the year, the turn of this year, you might have a half a year to know what your target is. That's the goal. Some people say I'm an optimist. I'm in education. If I quit being an optimist, I got to get out. Okay, it's just that simple. Then we can start looking at menu. That is when change has to occur. I mean, it's going to change everything. So questions on A through F modeling, or A through F at this point for fiscal 19. Okay, you guys are killing me. I wasn't expecting this. Let's do report cards. It's a lot more fun. Almost there. There we go. School report cards. What we've been busy doing is we are building the infrastructure required by ASA. In December, what will go live is the basic requirements. I can't stand behind a podium, guys, I'm a teacher. Okay, is the basic requirements that have to be done for ASA. I want everybody in this room to keep in mind this is version 1. Okay, basic requirements. We bringing you in, remember you guys got, if you have any here, get the grader. Okay, if you don't get the grader, you or someone on your staff should be getting it and talking to you about it. We send out, this is how we get feedback a lot of the times. So we've been helping build the infrastructure through stakeholders and parents, sending out emails and stuff like that, that build the infrastructure. What has to be in it is non-negotiable. Okay, what we go forward with is negotiable. So I'm going to show you the basic meats of what's going to be in there. And I want you thinking as a school, because version 2, when we get to schools, we're going to have the ability for you to highlight your school version 2 after we get through this first round in December. So when you come in, I'm going to just basically go through the pages. We got 5 pages. This is the main page. And I'm going to show you how that sorts and works, but I don't want to jump their content. I'll show you all the bells and whistles there. When we look at the state report card, these are things that are required by ASA, and then I'll also let you know required by school. There's a lot of concerns out there about what do we have to do, who's doing it. So I'm hoping we're taking some of that weight off your shoulder and doing the reporting. We're making sure that all the data we use is data that's already public, so you guys are not caught off guard. Okay? So we're not creating a new formula. We're not putting something out there that you guys have never seen before. So I'm going to jump over to the state report. We did the scrolling because this is the best thing. It looks really good on a phone. If I go F12, it scrolls by a phone. In fact, sometimes I think more people, we have parents calling us all the time on their phones scrolling. If your site, we have different themes that you can change colors and make it look better. What's more pleasant to your eyes. Those are just bells and whistles, but they're nice to have. So I'm going to jump over to the state report card. It's going to scroll forever because that is current, and that's what most millennials and younger people and what do I say? It's the way it goes nowadays. However, for us, we also have a side menu. So you have these up here, but then you have what's called a hamburger. And this is what's going to be on the state report card. I'm going to come over here. We're going to have state accountability. What that is there is just a description. Because the state doesn't get an A through F. It's just a description. Federal accountability, TSI and CSI schools, assessment results, graduation rates, teacher qualification, EL proficiency, assessment and participation rates, chronic truancy, college and career readiness, post-secondary enrollment, per pupil expenditures, civil rights, and NAEP. Those are the things, according to ASA, that have to be there. So what's now? We're redoing the state plan, but we have to have our interim goals and progress in there. So you're going to see a table in here like this, and you basically get to jump back and forth. ELA, math. Okay. Then you actually have the visual down here. Same thing, ELA, math. These are state performance, by the way. And because we get, you guys might know, but we put out a lot of data and people call us a lot of times. There's also a tab that you can actually see the chart. Okay, keep in mind, a lot of what we'll be showing for the schools will behave the same way. There's your graduation. Those are the goals. When they redo the state plan, this may change. Again, actuals, if you can see, if you hover over them, what was the goal? Did we make it? Down here, what happens is because of FERPA, remember the 10 or less rule? If we don't have people, we couldn't set a goal. So you might have some things that aren't set because there wasn't enough kids at a school level to show and stuff like that. Or you can also go to the data. Okay, CSI school. All we're supposed to do is list the CSI schools. There they are. You can scroll down. These are live links. So if they wanted to go to the school, they can. Here's the TSI schools with a basic. When you read these descriptions, they're written so a parent or someone from the public, we all know what it is, but they're written very plain. You know, a school that's getting extra help and support because of performance. It's pretty generic and you'll be able to read this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give Mark a PowerPoint that has all the live links out of it that you guys can refer to and share with your stakeholders as well until this goes live. Student achievement, we haven't put in there, but we'll have the AZ merit results in here. Here's graduation rate. Again, you can have the data. Participation and state assessment, don't like the color, just change it. Okay, so you can see we really do well in participation. Okay, here's the alternative or truancy. Now what's going to happen with truancy is because we have to use civil rights data, we did a conundrum. We have to do chronic truancy. We have chronic absenteeism in K-8, and we have chronic absences in the civil rights data. We can't use all three. That'll just drive everybody crazy trying to figure out which one to look at. So we will use the chronic truancy from the civil rights data. That way it's consistent. And for K-8, your schools, there will be a section on your report card that will have where they're reporting out your performance. It's not the dashboard yet, guys, don't get excited. Okay, but it will have where that performance is just for that bonus point. Okay, here's NAEP. Goals and plans, LEA. If you saw in here, there was things for teacher certification, but that hasn't been built yet. So remember, this is all prototype data. So that's what the state report card looks like, where you can go back and forth. Now I'm going to go back to home. I'm a parent. We all have parents. Oh, I got to play with this. Watch this. We had a contest for pictures. If you were sitting back there, it looks really good on that screen, huh, guys? That screen looks really pretty for the pictures. So basically, it's all Arizona landscape pictures. So people coming from other states, if we can't do anything, we at least got beautiful, beautiful landscape. So this is what's really cool right here. And I'm going to put this thing down because I have to type. I'm moving to Peoria. And I'm looking at a house in 85345. So it thinks for a minute and it goes out and it's There's the zip code. So if I click on this, it's going to go to a map. And here's the schools within 5 miles. Okay, here's their little tab. And yes, these are live links. And I'm going to get you to the school report card right now in just a minute. I just want to show you how all these things work. You can see a lot of these are, and these aren't live. Again, we got that not completely populated with data. So if I go back home here, you can also browse by schools here, browse by districts, jump to the state. These are still being decided what they're going to link to, or if they're even going to stay on there. So they have to link, so that it has to be a good link. You could just put a school in there. So our IT guy's from Chandler and I'm from Peoria, and we go back and forth about who gets the most screen time when we're demonstrating. So here we go, Centennial High School. I'm going to go ahead and jump to that school. And you can go right there. Districts, it's going to be the same thing, a little different here. You could jump to a district. So let's give Chandler today, we'll jump to C's. Okay, there we go, all the districts. If you want to know what those 24 schools are in the Cartwright district, it opens up and then you can select the school, or you select the district and it takes you to the district link. Okay, districts don't have a letter grade. So I'm going to jump back to the schools here. And let me jump to another school. Oops, sorry guys. Okay, so what's going to happen at the top? And by the way, if I go to the phone view, you can see how it's a scroller for parents on a phone. Okay, so let me go back. Most of this is a little bit wider. The way they have this set up, it squishes in, but it automatically adjusts both ways. So you can have grades served, you can have the district, you're going to have whether it's title. If it does not populate, it goes away. So if you're not a title school, it's not going to say Title I status. It'll also have CSI or TSI on there, but if you're not, then that wouldn't show. We will be contacting your schools lately to update everything so we get the right principal. And then also we get your right mission statement. Okay. We'll also have your link to your website and a map for any parent who wants to go there. Just like over here, if you're more driven by a menu, student details will include enrollment, absenteeism results, growth, graduation rate, dropout rate, and the civil rights data. What's not up there, they haven't added yet, is a teacher certification. So that will all be part of the school report. What we are doing with A through F, because we have not built the dashboard, is whatever component it most will be shown in that area. So where you're seeing your AZ merit, there will be a line about how you did on A through F. It's time, because this is federal, and I've learned the good word supplanting. Okay, so we're using federal money to build this. So right now it has not been used to, we know the dashboard will be probably in here, it will be in here, but right now we have to get through the federal guidelines. So let me go back over here. We don't know what these donuts are, but when you go in, here's the demographics. Now, trust me, I know Vistancia, this is not their demographics. This is all dummy data. Okay, and then you could also get a data table. So if you're a parent, here's your AZ merit scores. We're gonna do the same thing here. If you hover over it, you can see the parts. Okay, growth, there won't be a growth chart. There will just be how many points you earned out of how many points were available. Because in the state plan, there was not a growth component in there that was easily defined or that we could calculate. And then addition will be following that is you'll have graduation, you'll have dropout. So that's why I went to the state one, because it's better built out, because they haven't fully built out the schools yet. So that is pretty much, yes, sir.
So,
Oh, yes,
the civil rights data being reported, you want to,
yes.
everybody has that handout?
This one's the important one. The federal government, EdGov, and ASA has given all the states their 2015-16 data. That must be included. These are the components they said must be included. Now, what they did give us leeway on is how we present it. There's 1,800 columns in that data file. I've got us down to 14 or 13, 12. What we did for this first go around, until we can have a lot more impact on what Arizona wants to see, is a total aggregate, boys and girls. We're not reporting any ethnicities, race. The only subgroup that we have to break out is the with and without disabilities. So we've taken 1,800 columns and we've brought it down. Now, the question I have for you guys, and I will take the direction, is you should, whoever reports, this is the data that you, individual schools and districts report to the civil rights people for 15-16. You should get it, okay? And I have debated, I can create a file, an actual Excel with that data in it, and share it with those that are interested. But keep in mind, once I create a file, I haven't done it yet, then it could go public. So it's up to you if it's easier for you guys just to get your data like you know how to, or we're really trying to provide you guys a service and we're answering the phone and talking a lot. So if you really want to see the Excel file without having to pull down 1,800 columns. And Joe, didn't you say you've also loaded it?
Yes, we have it in our database, and these people are filling out the civil rights survey for 1780. As we speak, we're shortly filling it out. So you don't like the data that's in there, you think it's inaccurate, it came from you, and you're going to fill out the data and tell them what the data is going forward.
So we want to keep it that way. So what I need to hear from you when you guys feedback is, first of all, what do you want to see round two? Round two, we're going to have a place where you can say, I'm IB. I have AP. I've got a championship football team. And that's important to kids, that the only reason they go to school is because of sports. It keeps them there. I have after school tutoring. So in version 2, we're going to have a place where you can load up your own information. Okay, and then the other thing I need to know is, do you guys want us to create a file, or you just want to go to Joe's site and look, or just pull it from your data? But that's pretty much the report card that I have.
Can I make an editorial comment here too? That civil rights data survey, having been the person in a couple different districts who's taken 40 hours to do it, don't skimp when you do that. Don't guess. That's going to be on your school report card or reported widely. You need to be extremely careful with how you do that, especially when you're reporting disciplinary action by carries by special education and so on. Don't guess on that. You know, be accurate, but be extremely careful in reporting that, because you can end up making your school or your district look very questionable in how they're handling things. So you need to exercise extreme care in when you're doing that. Having seen, you know, I'll send out to ASA members, there's interactive maps now. I'll send that out to you. You can click on different districts and schools throughout the state. And especially if you're a smaller school or a smaller district and you have only a few students in certain categories and that student has been suspended, suddenly you look like, oh, you're suspending 40% of your special ed students. Well, if you didn't have that many and a couple of them got suspended, suddenly you're looking bad if it's reported as a percentage. So be careful how you're reporting things. I'm not saying don't report it accurately, but take care. And if you have very small numbers in certain categories, that's something to consider when you're taking harsh disciplinary action. Just think about what you're doing before you do it and how it's going to be reported on the civil rights data collection. Doesn't mean don't do it, but think about consequences. I'll send you out this interactive disciplinary map and you can click on your district and see what it looks like. That's my soapbox.
Okay, can I answer any questions for you guys so far? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just very quickly. If I understood it correctly, in reporting discipline on the report card, it's disaggregated by disability. Given the national and statewide concern around disproportionality around disability and race, how was the decision made not to include race disaggregation as well?
Well, we looked at what had to be done for this first go around, so everybody could really see, we just went with the bare minimum. And with or without disability was the only subgroup they made us break out. It's 1,800 columns. We would really like to sit with people and decide. I mean, there are some coalitions that would like to see it broke out for their particular group that they support, and I think we need to move that. But what we wanted to do is let everybody get a chance to look at their data, understand their data, look at their own subgroups, and then as we move forward, you guys help drive how that's developed. This is the bare minimum. We need some more time to really decide how we're going to use this data and report it. Remember, it's numbers, it's not percents. So that's the other thing too. Yeah. I see it both ways. We're trying to do the least amount of damage, well, not damage. Yeah, least amount of damage as possible. Okay, other questions? Yes, sir.
Joe, do you have that file to give us? You asked the question about whether we want to file it or not. It's public record. Joe has a way to get it to us. Joe can send it through Mark to us, and then we don't have to worry about it as public record. If not, I think some of us would like to know if the guillotine's coming, at least have a chance to look at the data. So Joe, do you have that OCR data?
I've got some people cleaning up and making sure it's consistent for the last 4 administrations. So let me look and see what I have. Decision Center for Education sounds really good. It's me. So I hired you started last Monday. And that's great. Okay. I'll see what I think we could. We're not going to get overwhelmed with district asking for that, especially at the district level. So let me look and see what I can do, and I'll communicate with Mark when I need to hold that.
And once we're completely done with the data and the coding of it, I mean, we have it in code, we just haven't produced a document completely because we're testing it. Then once we're comfortable, then we'll say, okay, guys, here it is. We'll give you a link. And then if they ask, they could go get it themselves. I just don't think they'll clean 1,800 columns. Yes.
A couple of questions. Back in the day, they used to have, Arizona used to have the report cards. How similar are these report cards to the previous ones? I can't remember. It was a while, a long time ago. I remember having them. And then the next question is, what is the timeline for version number 2 dashboard?
Oh, version number 2 will be after December. So,
Repeat the questions.
oh, what she was asking is how closely is it related and looks like the old report card? And the second question was, when is version 2 coming online?
Actually, also, when is the dashboard going to be?
Yes, that's.
Which is different than version 2.
And then question 3 is dashboard. So answer to question 1, there's a couple graphs that we kept because they were really good graphs. Other than that, it's a new report card, especially when we start adding the input. Version 2, when you guys give us feedback this week, we're doing all the road shows. So we will gather all this stuff and that will drive what is version 2. Version 2 will have to probably be the dashboard if we can get the funding for it. And then sometime within the next 12 months or hopefully before next December, or probably might be next December, all that goes up because it goes by fiscal year. So we're reporting fiscal year 18 in December. So it'll probably be with the version 2. And then the next question was the dashboard. I have the ADE has the working group on A through F, and the state board has asked them to look at the dashboard scoring for those components. So until we get component scoring, we'll start moving. So they're sort of hand in hand. We have to get the scoring for all the individual components, but we have to know what the components are. And right now you have K8 in your inbox and 912 hasn't been developed. So probably again within the next year. And that's me talking with no experience other than 7 months. So keep that in mind. Okay, other questions? I'm gonna trip, so I have to look, hold on. Okay. Are you guys, you sure? No other questions? It really does look nice. I'm looking forward to when you guys can input and provide us your own data. I will get that PowerPoint to Mark and we'll be able to send it to you.
So that'll come out to you probably, depending on when I get back to the office, either end of the day today or right away tomorrow morning. So you can start giving input, and you'll also get Dr. O'Reilly's presentation as well. And I will send you that interactive data map that shows the civil rights data, so you can click on your school or district and see what's out there right now for better or best. Nobody's got worst, right? Okay, I think we're ready to, let's thank Dr. Davy. Ms. Davy, I just promoted her. Let's see if I can find our rooms.
Up above, number seven.
Here's our rooms for the breakout. 344 ed services, 345 middle level, 346 higher ed, 347 secondary, 39 elementary. Soups, you're staying right here. So let's break now for the division meetings. Thank you.
Should I ask that? I know, Paradise Valley and Chandler, same thing.